We fashionably late. I think. I think. Let's get some people up in here. Let's get people up in here. I just have to change the change the thing. For chapters 4 to 5, because that's where we are right now. Chapters 4 to 5. Tonight we are in Essos. We are reading about Daenerys. Daenerys Stormborn. Rah. Rah. I don't know what Ra is. I have to pick out good music. Give me a beat. Game of Thrones. Ambient music. Give us give us. Just put in Targaryen and see what's with that. Wow, I can't spell. Because I don't want to put marine because it's a little bit different. Let's hear how marine sounds. It could work. Ish. It could work. We'll let it go. I hope that my mic is loud enough. I'll bring down the music just a touch. Just a touch. Oh. We've got some interesting voices today. So that's gonna be fun. That shall be very, very, very fun. Let's just wait a little bit longer since I was late as well. I said 8:34 sharp and I was late. So how's everyone doing this fine night? This fine, lovely night. Yeah, this could definitely work. Oh, it's a bit exciting already. Oh my gosh. I'll bring you down just a little bit. Hey yo. Joe has subscribed to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now as well. Let me put that in the chat, right? So I have 2 YouTube channels, right? One is for Redacted, which is more my main things, but I made one for Work in Progress, so that mainly for these VODs more than anything, so people can go back and rewatch them. But the main one really is to rewatch the first one that we did, which was the prologue. Okay, so it's finally gotten better. It finally did the thing where it's like, you know, where it trimmed the part where I wanted it to trim to. So it's just an hour long. That's how long we took to read the prologue. Here you go. Welcome me in the chat. Hello. Hello me. How are you? You know? And I shall be putting up the chapters 1 and 2 tonight as well after this. After the stream. So that will be good. So people will be able to see, will be able to follow along, even though they may not have made it to the live stream. I say I'll give it like, say 3 more minutes, and then we'll start. So give me 2 seconds. I have something to listen to. People, I'm here. Don't worry. I'm just like listening to a voice note really quickly. Don't worry. I am here. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I feel we should start now. Ashley, what is up? You finally make it to one. Nice. I hope you saw the link in the Discord. Um, to see the prologue. Chapters 1 and 2 are gonna be put up tonight as well, like after the stream. And then like, hold on. Okay, so once people have the YouTube link, that's good. Is the music louder than me? When I get to these loud bits, I just need to know, is everything good? I just playing up thing off of YouTube, it doesn't matter. If you want me to bring down everything good, nice. If you need me to bring down the music just a little bit, because it does get a bit heavy, right? Okay. Let's just wait until this song finishes, and then we'll do our little intro and whatnot, right? Oh gosh, this is a long song. It's still going on. I didn't think that this was long. Oh, your reach, nice. Music still very subtle at the intense parts. Nice. Good. So, think it's finishing now. Beautiful, nice. Now, I invite everyone who has the books. You can open. Oh God. I forgot that this is a notification that I have one. Hello. And also that. Yeah. Okay. Don't make me switch those off. Alright. Let us. Oh wait, you didn't even hear it. Because Streamabot is muted. I only heard it. Shucks. Do it one more time. Just get out your system. Right? Go ahead. Go ahead. And this is the last time for everybody. There you go.
Good soup.
Nice. Anybody else need to get it out the system? No? Good. Cool. Now we're muting it. And now, let us talk about what happened. Let's go to previously. Oh, shucks, I messed it up. I keep messing up this thing. Let's go. Previously on A Game of Thrones. Ooh, spooky, dookie. So, previously, we met these people from the Night's Watch, and they found and came upon the White Walkers. Then we were introduced to Bran, Eddard, Robb, Theon, and Jon, all after Ed had executed the one who ran away. I think it was Will. We don't know his name, right? But they said that Will was one of them who got away in the first chapter. In the prologue Or was it Will? I don't know. Somebody got away, or probably didn't. I think they're all dead. Or the next one was executed. We saw that in the show as well. And at the end of Bran's chapter, we went to Catelyn's zone. We introduced to her, and she just told Ed that, yo, Jon Arryn is dead, right? We don't know who Jon Arryn is yet, unless you've seen the show, in which case you know who Jon Arryn is. But we shall be getting into all of that at some point later on in the future, I guess. And now we head over to Essos, to Daenerys, and figure out who is this one, who is this girl? Because at the end of the last chapter, King Robert was on his way to Winterfell. Look at that, we finished right in time with the music. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I'm gonna just do this thing where I'm gonna go to the opening things of right, and on this I'm gonna just have this ready for next time. Nice. The timing is wonderful, my friend. The timing is wonderful. All right. When I heard that, you didn't hear it. Didn't hear it on the stream, unfortunately. I apologize. Okay, so let's start. We are here with Daenerys. Who is Daenerys? We don't know, but we do know. We do know. I'm sorry. We'll put it on after the reading. Okay. I still find that this is a bit too much pomp for her. Although yes, it is her thing. Let's do a different one. Let's have a little other thing, right? Okay. So we're here now. Daenerys, chapter 4. It's just called Daenerys. Are we ready? Ready? Yes, we're ready. Her brother held the gown up for her inspection. This is beauty. Touch it. Go on. Caress the fabric. Caress. What a word, right? Dany touched it. The cloth was so smooth that it seemed to run through her fingers like water. She could not remember ever wearing anything so soft. It frightened her. She pulled her hand away. What? Hold on. Now we got to try the voice.
I don't know what this one. Okay. Okay. This is gonna be Daenerys' voice. Okay. Is it really mine?
Wow, doesn't she sound annoying? A gift from the Magister Illyrio, Viserys said, smiling. Her brother is in a high mood tonight. The color will bring out the violet in your eyes, and shall have gold as well, and jewels of all sorts. Illyrio has promised. Tonight you must look like a princess. A princess, Dany thought. She had forgotten what that was like. Perhaps she had never really known.
Why does he give us so much?
She asked. Yes. What? Okay, hold on. I was reading chat at the same time. Sorry, I forgot. For nigh on half a year, they had lived in the Magister's house, eating his food, pampered by his servants. Dany was 13. There you go. That's how old she is. Dany was 13, old enough to know that such gifts seldom come without their price. Here in the free city of Pentos. Illyrio is no fool, Viserys said. He was a gaunt young man with nervous hands and a feverish look in his pale lilac eyes. Oh, they've got purple eyes. The Magister knows that I will not forget my friends when I come into my throne. Dany said nothing. Magister Illyrio was a dealer in spices, gemstones, dragonbone, and other less savory things. slaves mainly. It doesn't say that, but it's probably that. He had friends in all of the 9 free cities, as it was said, and even beyond, in Viserys. I never knew how to pronounce that. Vias? Vase? Stop the music. Stop the music. Let's see if Google can help us. Vase. Vase? Vice. Voice. Dothrak. Vice Dothrak. Pronunciation. Vias, apparently, is how you pronounce it. Can you give me it in a sentence? Can you pronounce it? Yeah.
Vice Dothrak.
Vias Dothrak. So, in...
Vice Dothrak. Vice Dothrak.
Oh, okay, thank you. We get it. We get it. In Vias Dothrak and the fabled lands beyond the Jade Sea. Okay, we can bring back the music now. It was also said that he'd never had a friend he wouldn't cheerfully sell for the right price. Dany listened to the talk in the streets, and she heard these things, but she knew better than to question her brother when he wove his webs of dream. His anger was a terrible thing when he roused. Viserys called it waking the dragon. Her brother hung the gown beside the door. Illyria would send the slaves to bathe you. Be sure you wash off the stink of the stables. Khal Drogo has 1,000 horses. Tonight he looks for a different sort of mount. You damn sicko. He studied her critically. You still slouch. Straighten yourself. He pushed back her shoulders with her hands. Let them see that you have a woman's shape now. His fingers brushed lightly over her budding breasts and tightened on a nipple. What am I reading? You will not fail me tonight. If you do, it will go hard for you. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you? His fingers twisted her. The pinch cruelly hard through the rough fabric of her tunic. Do you? He repeated.
No!
Dany said meekly. I could only imagine what that sounds like. Her brother smiled. Good. He touched her hair almost with affection. When they write the history of my reign, sweet sister, they will say it began tonight. When he was gone, Dany went to a window and looked out wistfully on the waters of the bay. The square brick towers of Pentos were black silhouettes outlined against the setting sun. Dany could hear the singing of the red priests as they lit their night fires, and the shouts of ragged children playing games beyond the walls of the estate. For a moment she wished she could be out there with them, barefoot and breathless, and dressed in tatters, with no past and no future, and no feast to attend at Khal Drogo's manse. Somewhere beyond the sunset, across the narrow sea, lay a land of green hills, and flowered plains, and great rushing rivers, where towers of dark stone rose amidst magnificent blue-grey mountains, and armored knights rode to battle beneath the banners of their lords. The Dothraki called that land Rahesh and Dahali. We're gonna go with it. The land of the Andals. In the free cities they talk of Westeros and the Sunset Kingdoms. Her brother had a simpler name. Our land, he called it. The words were like a prayer with him. If he said them enough, the gods were sure to hear. Ours by blood right, taken from us by treachery, but ours still. Ours forever. You did not steal from the dragon, oh no, the dragon remembers. Ooh, so spooky. So spooky. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna look at the chat a little bit. She's not supposed to be 12, she's 13, we figured that out. That's the blonde girl, yeah, here. No read chat, read book, what? Yeah, the text to speech is what gives us, a little edge over everybody else, You're learning some new words. And perhaps the dragon did remember, but Dany could not. She had never seen this land her brother said was theirs, this realm beyond the narrow sea. These places he talked of, Castle Rock and the Eyrie, High Garden and the Vale of Arryn, Dawn and the Isle of Faces. They were just words to her. Viserys had been a boy of 8 when they fled King's Landing to escape the advancing armies of the usurper. But Daenerys had only been a quickening in their mother's womb. Yet sometimes Dany would picture the way it had been. So often had her brother told her the stories. The midnight flight to Dragonstone, moonlight shimmering on the ship's black sails. Oh look, the Black Pearl is gonna come up. Her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident and dying for the woman he loved. The sack of King's Landing by the ones Viserys called the usurper's dogs, the Lords Lannister and Stark. Princess Elia of Dorne pleading for mercy as Rhaegar's heir was ripped from her breast and murdered before her eyes. The polished skulls of the large dragons staring down sightlessly from the walls of the throne room while the Kingslayer opened father's throat with a golden sword. She had been born on Dragonstone 9 moons after their flight, while a raging summer storm threatened to rip the island fastness apart. They said that the storm was terrible. The Targaryen fleet was smashed while it lay at anchor, and huge stone blocks were ripped from the parapets. Hold on. We're gonna figure it out again. Parapets. I think it's parapets. Is it parapet?
Parapet.
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 Why does she have to sound so sensual when she says it?
Parapet.
Do you not hear like the breath is parapet?
Parapet.
Or is it just me?
Parapet.
We're gonna just go with it. So, the Targaryen fleet was smashed while it lay at anchor, and huge stone blocks were ripped from the
parapet.
and sent hurtling into the wild waters of the narrow sea. Okay, now we can bring back the music. Yes, the Parato routine. Her mother had died birthing her, and for that her brother Viserys had never forgiven her. She did not remember Dragonstone either. They had run again, just before the usurper's brother set sail with his new-built fleet. By then only Dragonstone itself and the ancient seat of their house had remained of the 7 kingdoms that had once been theirs. It would not remain for long. The garrison had been prepared to sell them to the usurper, but one night Sir Willem Darry and 4 loyal men had broken into the nursery and stolen them both, along with her wet nurse, and set sail under cover of darkness for the safety of the Bravosian coast. Yo, KC, what's up? Parapet. She remembered Sir Willem dimly, a great grey beard of a man, half blind, roaring and bellowing orders from his sickbed. The servants had lived in terror of him, but he had always been kind to Dany. He called her little princess, and sometimes my lady. A little weird, my dude, she's 13, and his hands were soft as old leather. He never left his bed, though, and the smell of sickness clung to him day and night. A hot, moist, sickly, sweet odor. Ew. That was when they lived in Bravos, in the big house with the red door. This is a bit intense again. Okay, she always has intense songs, I guess. Dany had her own room there, with a lemon tree outside her window. Alright, thank you. Please. After Sir Willem had died, the servants had stolen what little money they had left, and soon after, They had been put out of the big house. Dany had cried when the red door closed behind them forever. They had wandered since then, from Bravos to Myr, from Myr to Tarosh, and on to Qohor, and Volantis, and Lace, never staying long in any one place. Her brother would not allow it. The usurper's hired knives were close behind them. He insisted, though Dany had never seen one. At first, that was a weird way to to read that sentence. That was my fault. Sorry. At first, oh my gosh. Never mind, we'll do it at the end. At first, the Magisters and the Archons and the Archons. Pause again. Archons? They've got some weird ass words right now in this thing. Archon. Can you give me a pronunciation, please? Archon pronunciation. Thank you. Archon. Archon?
Archon.
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 Archon. Trying to figure out where we are right now. Oh yeah. At first, the Magisters and the
Archon.
and merchant princes were pleased to welcome the last Targaryens to their homes and tables. But as the years passed and the usurper continued to sit upon the Iron Throne, doors closed and their lives grew meaner. Okay, now we can bring back the music. Just be like, don't be so, intense, dude. We now getting to know your character. Chill a bit, right? It is a Genshin thing. Years passed and they had been forced to sell their last few treasures, and now even the coin they had gotten from Mother's crown had gone. In the alleys and wine sinks of Pentos, they called her brother the Beggar King. Dany did not want to know what they called her. "We'll have it all back someday, sweet sister," he would promise her. Sometimes his hand shook when he talked about it. The jewels and the silks, Dragonstone and King's Landing, the Iron Throne and the Seven Kingdoms, all they have taken from us, we will have it back. Viserys lived for that day. All that Daenerys wanted back was the big house with the red door, the lemon tree outside her window, the childhood she had never known. There came a soft knock on her door. Dany said, turning away from the window. "Well, if you insist." It doesn't say that. Illyrio's servants entered, bowed, and set about their business. They were slaves, a gift from one of the Magisters' many Dothraki friends. One of the Magister's many Dothraki friends. There was no slavery in the free city of Pentos. Nonetheless, they were slaves, which seems kinda backward now that we think about it. The old woman, small and grey as a mouse, never said a word, but the girl made up for it. She was Ilyrio's favourite, a fair-haired, blue-eyed wench of 16 who chattered constantly as she worked. They filled her bath with hot water, brought her from the kitchen, and scented it with fragrant oils. Again, very intense, my dude. Very intense. Is the music a bit more intense now? Like, loud? Or is it still good? Just wanna know. I'll take that as it's a good. I would just bring it down just a tad. Okay, that's better for me, honestly. They filled her bath with hot water, brought her from the kitchen, and scented it with fragrant oils. The girl pulled the rough cotton tunic over Dany's head and helped her into the tub. The water was scalding hot, but Daenerys did not flinch or cry out. She liked the heat. It made her feel clean. Besides, her brother had often told her that it was never too hot for a Targaryen. "Ours is the house of the dragon," he would say. "The fire is in our blood." The old woman washed her long silver pale hair and gently combed out the snags, all in silence. The girl scrubbed her back and her feet and told her how lucky she was. She's got a different voice.
You gotta figure out a different voice for her, okay? It's still a girl. We'll give her a higher voice, okay? Okay. Jabba is so rich that even his slaves wear golden collars. 100,000 men ride in his palace. We're making up words now. And his place in Vice Dothrak has 200 rooms and doors of solid silver.
There was more like that. So much more. What a handsome man the Carl was. So tall and fierce, fearless in battle. The best rider ever to mount a horse. A demon archer. And most of all, played by Jason Momoa. Daenerys said nothing. She had always assumed that she would wed Viserys when she came of age. Hold on, what? Okay, no, that's typical of Targaryens, honestly. For centuries, the Targaryens had married brother and sister. There you go. Since Aegon the Conqueror had taken his sisters to bride. Yeah, there you go. Zabakadu, you're being serenaded right now? Thank you. Thank you, Zabakadu. Okay, yeah, where am I? Yes. Dragons did, oh wait. Yeah, the line must be kept pure. Viserys had told her 1,000 times. Theirs was the king's blood, the golden blood of old Valyria, the blood of the dragon. Dragons did not mate with the beasts of the field, and Targaryens did not mingle their blood with that of lesser men. Yet now Viserys schemed to sell her to a stranger, a barbarian. When she was clean, the slaves helped her from the water and toweled her dry. The girl brushed her hair until it shone like molten silver, while the old woman anointed her with the spice flower perfume of the Dothraki plains. A dab on each wrist. Dab it out, my friend. Behind her ears, on the tips of her breasts, and one last one cool on her lips. Down there between her legs. They dressed her in the wisps that Magister Illyrio had sent up. And then the gown, a deep plum silk to bring out the violet in her eyes. The girl slid the gilded sandals onto her feet, while the old woman fixed the tiara in her hair. She didn't have a tiara last time that we saw her. Well, the first time we saw her. Never mind. They missed that! And slid golden bracelets crusted with amethyst around her wrists. Last of all came the collar, a heavy golden torque emblazoned with ancient Valyrian glyphs.
Now you look like a princess, now you do.
The girl said breathlessly. Oh wait, breathlessly. The girl said breathlessly when they were done. Dany glanced at her image in the silvered looking glass that Illyrio had so thoughtfully provided. A princess, she thought. But she remembered what the girl had said, how Khal Drogo was so rich even his slaves wore golden collars. She felt a sudden chill, and goose flesh pimpled her bare arms. That's what they call goosebumps? Goose flesh? Goose pimples I would even accept, because I say that. Her brother was waiting in the cool of the entry hall, seated on the edge of the pool, his hand trailing in the water. He rose when she appeared and looked her over critically. "Stand there," he told her. "Turn around. Yes, good. You look regal," Magister Illyrio said. It's a different voice and we're not going to remember it. Stepping through an archway. He moved with surprising delicacy for such a massive man. Beneath loose garments of flame-colored silk, rolls of fat jiggled as he walked. Gemstones glittered on every finger, and his man had oiled his forked yellow beard until it shone like real gold. "May the Lord of Light shower you with blessings on this most fortunate day, Princess Daenerys," the Magister said, as he took her hand. He bowed his head, showing a thin glimpse of crooked yellow teeth through the gold of his beard. "She is a vision, your grace, a vision," he told her brother. Drogo would be enraptured. She's too skinny, Viserys said in his usual preppy boy voice. His hair, the same silver blonde as hers, had been pulled back tightly behind his head and fastened with a dragonbone brooch. It was a severe look that emphasized the hard, gaunt lines of his face. He rested his hand on the hilt of the sword that Illyrio had lent him and said, "Are you sure that Khal Drogo likes his women this young?" "Are you sure?" George R. Weirdo, my dude. He is. He is indeed. Where am I? Yeah. She has her blood. She has had her blood. She is old enough for the call, Illyrio told him, not for the first time. Look at her. That silver gold hair, those purple eyes. She is the blood of old Valyria. No doubt. And high-born. Daughter of the old king, sister to the new. She cannot fail to entrance our Drogo. When he released their hand, Daenerys found herself trembling. I suppose, her brother said doubtfully, the savages have queer tastes. Boys, horses, sheep. Best not suggest this to Khal Drogo, Illyrio said. Anger flashed in her brother's lilac eyes. Do you take me for a fool? He said in his very stupid voice that David has given him. The Magister bowed slightly. I take you for a king. Kings lack the caution of common men. Look at him, he's been promoted. My apologies if I have given offense. I don't know where that voice came from, to be honest. I think I heard it in a video, and now I can't stop doing it. He turned away and clapped his hands for his bearers. The streets of Pentos were pitch dark when they set out in Illyrio's elaborately carved palanquin. Stop the music. I gotta figure out another one. How is palanquin? Palanquin. Palanquin?
Palanquin.
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 Palanquin. Where are we? Elaborately carved.
Palanquin.
What does palanquin even mean? Let's figure it out. Palanquin, a covered litter for one's passenger. Oh, so it's the box thing that people like. That's what they call it.
Palanquin.
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 Palanquin. Elaborately carved.
Palanquin.
Thank you. Two servants went ahead. Let's put back on music. Put back on music. Can't do this without music. There we go. Two servants went ahead to light their way, carrying ornate oil lanterns with panes of pale blue glass, while a dozen strong men hoisted the poles to their shoulders. It was warm and close inside behind the curtains. Dany could smell the stench of Illyrio's pallid flesh through his heavy perfumes. Ew, she thought to herself. But not really. Her brother sprawled out on his pillows beside her, never noticed. His mind was away across the narrow sea. We won't need his whole Khalasar, Viserys said. His fingers toyed with the hilt of his borrowed blade, though Dany knew he had never used the sword in earnest. 10,000. That would be enough. I could sweep the 7 kingdoms with 10,000 Dothraki screamers. The realm would rise for its rightful king. Tyrell, Redwyn, Darry, Greyjoy. They have no more love for the usurper than I do. The Dornish men burn to avenge Elia and her children, and the small folk will be with us. They cry out for their king. He looked at Illyrio anxiously. They do, don't they? They're your people, and they love you well, Magister Illyrio said amiably. And hold fast across the realm, men lift the secret toast to your health, while women show dragon banners and hide them against the day of your return from across the water. What is his voice doing? I think he's going ever so mad. He gave a massive shrug. Or so my agents tell me. Dany had no agents, no way of knowing what anyone was doing or thinking across the narrow sea. But she mistrusted Illario's sweet words as she mistrusted everything about Illario. Her brother was nodding eagerly, however. "I shall kill the usurper myself," he promised, who had never killed anyone, as he killed my brother Rhaegar, and Lannister too, the Kingslayer, for what he did to my father. What would be most fitting? He's gone crazy. He's gone mad. Magister Ilario said. Dany saw the smallest hint of a smile playing around his full lips, but her brother did not notice. Nodding, he pushed back a curtain and stared off into the night, and Dany knew he was fighting the Battle of the Trident once again. The 9 towered manse of Khal Drogo sat beside the waters of the bay, its high brick walls overgrown with pale ivory. It had been given to the Khal by the magisters of Pentos, Ilario told them. The free cities were always generous with the house lords. "It is not that we fear these barbarians," Ilario would explain with a smile. "The Lord of Light would hold our city walls against 1,000,000 Dothraki, or so the Red Priest promised. Yet why take the chances when their friendship comes so cheap?" Their palanquin, we learned that word now, was stopped at the gate, the curtains pulled roughly back by one of the house guards. He had the copper skin and dark almond eyes of a Dothraki. Why did I say almond like almond? I think it's because how they have it in the book. But his face was hairless, and he wore the spiked bronze cap of the Unsullied. He looked them over coldly. Magister Ilario growled something to him in the rough Dothraki tongue. The guardsman replied in the same voice and waved them through the gates. Dany noticed that her brother's hand was clenched tightly around the hilt of his borrowed sword. He looked almost as frightened as she felt. "Insolent eunuch," Viserys muttered as the palanquin lurched up toward the manse. Magister Ilario's words were honey. "Many important men would be at the feast tonight. Such men have enemies. The Khal must protect his guests, yourself chief amongst them. Your Grace, no doubt the usurper will pay well for your head." "Oh yes," Viserys said darkly. "He has tried, Ilario, I promise you that. His hired knives follow us everywhere. I'm the last dragon, and he will not sleep easy while I live. You sound like a bit of a bitch, my friend." So Ilario thought. The palanquin slowed and stopped. The curtains were thrown back, and a slave offered a hand to help Daenerys out. His collar, she noted, was ordinary bronze. Her brother followed, one hand still clenched hard around his sword hilt. It took 2 strong men to get Magister Ilario back on his feet. Inside the manse, the air was heavy with the scent of spices, pinchfire, and sweet lemon and cinnamon. They were escorted across the entry hall, where a mosaic of colored glass depicted the doom of Valyria. Oil burned in black iron lanterns all along the walls. Beneath an arch of twinning stone leaves, a eunuch sang their coming. "Viserys of the House Targaryen, the 3rd of his name," he called in a high, sweet voice. Oh, he had a high, sweet voice. Well, don't we have the thing for that?
Viserys of the House Targaryen, the 3rd of his name.
He called in a high, sweet voice. Because that's what it was.
King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm, his sister Daenerys Stormborn, Princess of Dragonstone, his honorable host Ilario Mopatis, Magister of the Free City of Pentos.
I pronounced like every word in that wrong, but it's okay. They stepped past the eunuch into a pillared courtyard overgrown in pale ivory. Moonlight painted the leaves in shades of bone and silver as the guests drifted amongst them. Many were Dothraki house lords, big men with red-brown skin, their drooping mustachios bound in metal rings, their black hair oiled and braided and hung with bells. Yet among them moved bravos and sellswords from Pentos and Mer and Tyrosh, A red priest even fatter than Ilario, if you could believe that. Hairy men from the port of Ibn, and lords from the Summer Isles, with skin as black as ebony. Daenerys looked at them all in wonder and realized, with a sudden start of fear, that she was the only woman there. Ilario whispered to them, "Those 3 are the Drogo's blood riders there," he said. "By the pillar is Khal Moro, with his son Rogoro. The man with the green beard is brother to the Archon of Theros." He turned into what's his name now? Oh my gosh, Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was doing that. "And the man behind him is Sir Jorah Mormont." The last name caught Daenerys.
A knight? Kawaii.
No less, Ilario smiled through his beard. "Anointed with the 7 oils by the High Septon himself,"
What is he doing here?
she blurted. "The usurper wants his head," Ilario told him. "Some trifling affront. He sold some poachers to a Tyroshi slaver instead of giving them to the Night's Watch. Absurd law. A man should be able to do as he likes with his own chattel."
I shall wish to speak with Sir Jorah before the night is done.
Oh, shucks, that was Viserys. I shall wish to speak with Sir Jorah before the night is done," her brother said. Dany found herself looking at the knight curiously. He was an older man, past 40 and balding, but still strong and fit. Instead of silks and cottons, he wore wool and leather. His tunic was a dark green embroidered with the likeness of a black bear standing on 2 legs. She was still looking at this strange man from the homeland she had never known, when Magister Ilario placed a moist hand on her bare shoulder. "Over there, sweet princess," he whispered. "There is the Khal himself." Dany wanted to run and hide, but her brother was looking at her, and if she displeased him... Sorry, I hiccuped. Yeah. Dany wanted to run and hide, but her brother was looking at her, and if she displeased him, she knew she would wake the dragon. Anxiously, she turned and looked at the man Viserys hoped would ask to wed her before the night was done. The slave girl had not been far wrong, she thought. Khal Drogo was a head taller than the tallest man in the room, yet somehow light on his feet, as graceful as the panther in Ilario's menagerie. Menagerie, I think, is the closest one we've gotten. Where we? Menagerie. His friends.
Menagerie.
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 We're gonna say it in a French accent. Menagerie.
Menagerie.
A collection of wild animals kept in captivity for exhibition. As graceful as the panther in Ilario's
Menagerie.
There you go. He was younger than she'd thought, no more than 30. His skin was the color of polished copper, his thick mustachios bound with gold and bronze rings. "I must go and make my submissions," Magister Ilario said. "Wait here, I shall bring him to you." Her brother took her by the arm as Ilario waddled over to the car, his fingers squeezing so hard that they hurt. "Do you see his braid, sweet sister?" Drogo's braid was black as midnight and heavy with scented oil, hung with tiny bells that rang softly as he moved. It swung well past his belt, below even his buttocks, the end of it brushing against the back of his thighs. "You see how long it is," Viserys said. "When Dothraki are defeated in combat, they cut off the braids in disgrace so the world would know their shame. Khal Drogo has never lost a fight. He is Aegon the Dragon Lord come again, and you will be his queen." Dany looked at Khal Drogo. His face was hard and cruel, his eyes as cold and dark as onyx. Her brother hurt her sometimes when she woke the dragon, but he did not frighten her the way this man frightened her.
I don't want to be his queen.
She heard herself say in a small, thin voice.
Please, Viserys, I don't want to. I want to go home.
"Home?" He kept his voice low, but she could hear the fear in his tone. How are we to go home, sweet sister? They took our home from us. He drew her into the shadows, out of sight, his fingers digging into her skin. How are we going to go home? He repeated, meaning King's Landing and Dragonstone and all the realm they had lost. Dany had only meant their rooms in Illyria's estate, no true home, surely, though all they had. But her brother did not want to hear that. There was no home there for him. Even the big house with the red door had not been home for him. His fingers dug hard into her arm, demanding an answer.
I don't know.
She said at last, her voice breaking, and suddenly turning very bad Japanese. Tears welled in her eyes. I do, he said sharply. We go home with an army, sweet sister. With Khal Drogo's army. That is how we go home. And if you must wed him and bed him for that, you will. He smiled at her, and let his whole Khalasar fuck you if you need be, sweet sister. All 40,000 men, and their horses too, if that's what it took to get my army. Be grateful it is only Drogo. In time you may even learn to like him. Now dry your eyes. Illyria's bringing him over, and he will not see you crying. This dude is a bit of a prick. We're just finding that out now. Ooh. Dany turned and saw that it was true. Magister Illyria, all smiles and bows, was escorting Khal Drogo over to where they stood. She brushed away unfallen tears with the back of her hand. Smile, Viserys whispered nervously, his hand falling to the hilt of his sword, and stand up straight. Let him see that you have breasts. Gods know you have little enough as it is. Daenerys smiled and stood up straight. And there ends Daenerys' lovely introduction. It's wonderful, wonderful how great Viserys is, obviously. Wonderful times, right? So we're gonna just pause the music here. You didn't miss much, Corey, don't worry. You didn't miss much. We're going on to the second chapter now. And the second chapter, let's just bring this down a little bit. Yeah. The second chapter is that of wait, hold on, let me just do this thing quick. Is that of Eddard of Winterfell. What? Spooky. Yes, just hold on, I'm coming up. Let's bring down this music just a tiny bit. A tiny bit. Eddard. The visitors poured through the castle gates in a river of gold and silver and polished steel, 300 strong, a pride of bannermen and knights, of sworn swords and free riders. Over their heads 12 golden banners whipped back and forth in the northern wind, emblazoned with the crowned stag of Baratheon. Ned knew many of the riders. There came Sir Jaime Lannister, with hair as bright as beaten gold, and there Sandor Clegane with his terrible burnt face. The tall boy beside him could only be the crown prince, and that stunted little man behind them was surely the imp Tyrion Lannister. Yet the huge man at the head of the column, flanked by 2 knights in the snow-white cloaks of the King's Guard, seemed almost a stranger to Ned, until he vaulted off the back of his warhorse with a familiar roar and crushed him in a bone-crunching hug. "Ned! But it's good to see that frozen face of yours." The king looked him over top to bottom and laughed. "You haven't changed at all." This thing is really loud. Let's bring it down a bit. I hope that my mic is good. It should be. Winter is coming home. Winter is going home indeed. Would that Ned have been able to say the same? 15 years passed when they had ridden forth to win a throne. The Lord of Storm's End had been clean-shaven, clear-eyed, and muscled like a maiden's fantasy. 6.5 feet tall. Should have been 7 foot tall rat all on his back. Oh my gosh, can you please?
I'm in.
I don't have the thing for it, but yeah, thank you, Corey. Thank you for that. You're not deaf now. Yeah, you're not deaf now. What? Yeah, no, I heard it. Y'all didn't. Yeah, where am I? 6.5 feet tall, he towered over lesser men, and when he donned his armor and the great antlered helmet of his house, he became a veritable giant. He'd had a giant's strength too. His weapon of choice, a spiked iron warhammer that Ned could scarcely lift. He was Thor. You heard it too? Oh. Well, you probably heard it through the mic, maybe. In those days, the smell of leather and blood had clung to him like perfume. Now it was perfume that clung to him like perfume, and he had a girth to match his height. Ned had last seen the king 9 years before, during Baelon Greyjoy's rebellion, when the stag and the direwolf had joined to end the pretensions of the self-proclaimed king of the Iron Islands. Since then, the night they had stood side by side in Greyjoy's fallen stronghold, where Robert had accepted the rebel lord's surrender, and Ned had taken his son Theon as hostage and ward. The king had gained at least 8 stone. A beard as coarse and black as iron wire covered his jaw to hide his double chin, and the sag of the royal jowls. But nothing could hide his stomach or the dark circles under his eyes. Yet Robert was Ned's king now, and not just a friend. So he said only, "Your Grace, Winterfell is yours." By then the others were dismounting as well, and grooms were coming forward for their mounts. Robert's queen, Cersei Lannister, entered on foot with her younger children. The wheelhouse in which they had ridden, a huge double-decked carriage of oiled oak and gilded metal pulled by 40 heavy draft horses, was too wide to pass through the castle gate. Ned knelt in the snow to kiss the queen's ring, while Robert embraced Catelyn like a long-lost sister. Then the children had been brought forward, introduced, and approved of by both sides. No sooner had those formalities of greeting been completed, than the king had said to his host, "Take me down to your crypt, Eddard. I'd like to pay my respects." Ned loved him for that, for remembering her still after all these years. He called for a lantern. No other words were needed. The queen had begun to protest. They had been riding since dawn. Everyone was tired and cold. Surely they should refresh themselves first. The dead would wait. She had said no more than that. Robert had looked at her, and her twin brother Jaime had taken her quietly by the arm, and she had said no more. They went down to the crypt together. Ned and this king he scarcely recognized. The winding stone steps were narrow. Ned went first with the lantern. I was starting to think we would never reach Winterfell, Robert complained as they descended. "In the south, the way they talk about my 7 kingdoms, a man forgets that your part is as big as the other 6 combined." They went to south, and that was the first time that Robert had been past the lighthouse. "I trust you enjoyed the journey, Your Grace." Robert snorted. "Bogs and forests and fields, and scarcely a decent inn north of the neck. I've seen such a vast emptiness. Where are all your people?" "Likely they were too shy to come out. Now. Don't you know?" Ned gestured. He could feel the chill coming up the stairs, a cold breath from deep within the earth. "Kings are a rare sight in the north." Robert snorted. "More likely they're hiding under the snow." "Snow, Ned, snow!" The damn snow! The king put one hand on the wall to steady himself as they descended. Late summer snows are common enough, Ned said. I hope they did not trouble you. They are usually mild. The others take your mild snows, Robert swore. What will this place be like in winter? I shudder to think. The winters are hard, Ned admitted, but the Starks will endure. We always have. You need to come south, Robert told him. You need a taste of the summer before it flees. In our garden there are fields of golden roses that stretch away as far as the eye can see. The fruits are so ripe they explode in your mouth. Melons, peaches, fire plums, you never tasted such sweetness. You'll see, I brought you some. Even at storm's end with that good wind off the bay, the days are so hot you can barely move. And you ought to see the towns, Ned. Flowers everywhere. The market's bursting with food. The summer wine's so cheap and so good that you can get drunk just breathing the air. Everyone is fat and drunk and rich. He laughed and slapped his own ample stomach with a thump. I wish I could do the smoker's laugh. Because that's how he would laugh. And the girls, Ned. Aye, the girls. Why is he a pirate? He exclaimed, his eyes sparkling. I swear women lose all modesty in the heat. They swim naked in the river right beneath the castle. Even in the streets it's too damn hot for wool or fur. So they go around in these short gowns. Silk if they had the silver and cotton if not. But it's all the same when they start sweating and the cloth sticks to their skin. They might as well be naked. This is gonna kill my my voice. Oh, I'm not glad I gave him this voice. The king laughed happily. Robert Baratheon had always been a man of huge appetites, a man who knew how to take his pleasures. That was not a charge anyone could lay at the door of Eddard Stark. Yet Ned could not help but notice that those pleasures were taking a toll on the king. Robert was breathing heavily by the time they reached the bottom of the stairs, his face red in the lantern light as they stepped out into the darkness of the crypt. Your Grace, Ned said respectfully. He swept the lantern in a wide semicircle. Shadows moved and lurched. Flickering light touched the stones underfoot and brushed against a long procession of granite pillars that marched ahead, 2 by 2 into the dark. Between the pillars, the dead sat on their stone thrones against the wall, backs against the sepulchres that contained their mortal remains. She is down at the inn with Father and Brandon. He led the way between the pillars, and Robert followed wordlessly, shivering in the subterranean chill. It was always cold down here. Their footsteps rang off the stones and echoed in the vault overhead as they walked among the dead of the house Stark. The lords of Winterfell watched them pass. Their likenesses were carved into the stones that sealed the tombs. In long rows they sat, blind eyes staring out into eternal darkness, while great stone direwolves curled round their feet. The shifting shadows, I almost said shadows, made the stone figures seem to stir as the living passed by. By ancient custom, an iron longsword had been laid across the lap of each who had been Lord of Winterfell, to keep the vengeful spirits in their crypts. The oldest had long ago rusted away to nothing, leaving only a few red stains where the metal had rested on stone. Ned wondered if that meant those ghosts were free to roam the castle now. He hoped not. The first lords of Winterfell had been men hard as the land they ruled. In the centuries before the Dragon Lords came over the sea, they had sworn allegiance to no man, styling themselves the kings in the north. Ned stopped at the last and lifted the oil lantern. The crypt continued on into darkness ahead of them, but beyond this point the tombs were empty and unsealed. Black holes waiting for their dead, waiting for him and his children. Ned did not like to think on that. Here, he told his king. Robert nodded silently, knelt and bowed his head. There were 3 tombs side by side. Lord Rickard Stark, Ned's father, had a long, stern face. The stonemason had known him well. He sat with quiet dignity, stone fingers holding tight to the sword across his lap. But in life all swords had failed him. In 2 smaller sepulchres on either side were his children. Brandon had been 20 when he died, strangled by the order of the mad King Aerys Targaryen, only a few short days before he was to wed Catelyn Tully of Rivendell. His father had been forced to watch him die. He was the true heir, the eldest, born to rule. Lyanna had only been 16, a child woman of surpassing loveliness. Ned had loved her with all his heart. Robert had loved her even more. She was to have been his bride. She was more beautiful than that, the king said after a silence. His eyes lingered on Lyanna's face as if he could will her back to life. Finally he rose, made awkward by his weight. Ah, damn it, Ned. Did you have to bury her in a place like this? His voice was hoarse with remembered grief. She deserved more than darkness. She was a Stark of Winterfell, Ned said quietly. This is her place. She should be on a hill somewhere under a fruit tree with the sun and the clouds above her, and the rain to wash her clean. I was with her when she died, Ned reminded the king. She wanted to come home, to rest beside Brandon and her father. He could hear her still at times. Promise me, Ned, she had cried in a room that smelled of blood and roses. Promise me, Ned. The fever had taken her strength, and her voice had been faint as a whisper. But when he gave her his word, the fear had gone out of her sister's eyes. Ned remembered the way she had smiled then, how tightly her fingers had clutched his as she gave up her hold on life, the rose petals spilling from her palm, dead and black. After that he remembered nothing. They had found him still holding her body, silent with grief. The little Cranagman? I think Cranagman. I'm gonna pause it here on Cranagman. What is a Cranagman? The little Cranagman. Cranagman are reclusive people who dwell in the swamps of the neck. Oh, so it's just somebody that they put on. Okay. Cool. The little Cranagman, Howland Reed, had taken her hand from his. Ned could recall none of it. I bring her flowers when I can, he said. Lyanna was fond of flowers. The king touched her cheek, his fingers brushing across the rough stone as gently as if it were living flesh. I vowed to kill Rhaegar for what he did to her. You did, Ned reminded him. Only once, Robert said bitterly. They had come together at the ford of Trident while the battle crashed around them, Robert with his warhammer and his great antlered helm, the Targaryen prince armored in all black. On his breastplate was the 3-headed dragon of his house, wrought in all rubies that flashed like fire in the sunlight. The waters of the Trident ran red around the hooves of the destriers as they circled and clashed again and again, until a last crushing blow from Robert's hammer stove in the dragon and the chest beneath it. When Ned had finally come on the scene, Rhaegar lay dead in the stream, while men of both armies scrambled in the swirling waters for rubies knocked free of his armor. And in my dreams I'd kill him every night, Robert admitted. 1,000 deaths would still be less than he deserves. There was nothing Ned couldn't say to that. After a quiet, he said, We should return, Your Grace. Your wife will be waiting. The others take my wife, Robert muttered sourly, while he started on the way back they had come, his footsteps falling heavily. And if I hear Your Grace one more, I'll have your head on a spike. We are more to each other than that. I had not forgotten, Ned replied quietly. When the king did not answer, he said, Tell me about Jon. What the hell was that? Hold on. This still feels like it's a bit loud. But I think it's fine if nobody's saying anything. Robert shook his head. I've never seen a man sicken so quickly. We gave a tourney on my son's name day. If you had seen John then, you'd have sworn he would live forever. A fortnight later, he was dead. The sickness was like a fire in his gut. It burned right through him. He paused beside a pillar before the tomb of a long-dead Stark. I loved that old man. We both did. Ned paused a moment. Catelyn fears for her sister. How does Lysa bear her grief? Robert's mouth gave a bitter twist. Not well, in truth, he admitted. I think losing John has driven the woman mad, Ned. She has taken the boy back to the Eyrie, against my wishes. I'd hoped to foster him with Tywin Lannister at Castle Rock. John had no brothers, no other sons. Was I supposed to leave him to be raised by women? A bit sexist, my dude. Ned would sooner entrust a child to a pit viper than to Lord Tywin, but he left his doubts unspoken. Some old wounds never truly heal, and bleed again at the slightest word. The wife has lost the husband, he said carefully. Perhaps the mother feared to lose the son. The boy is very young, sick and sickly, and Lord of the Eyrie gods have mercy. The king swore. Lord Tywin had never taken a ward before. Lysa ought to have been honored. The Lannisters are a great and noble house. She refused to even hear of it, and she left in the dead of night without so much as a by your leave. Cersei was furious. He sighed deeply. The boy is my namesake, did you know that? Robert Arryn. I'm sworn to protect him. How can I do that if Mother steals him away? I'll take him as ward if you wish, Ned said. Lysa should consent to that. She and Catelyn were close as gals, and she would be welcome here as well. You loved this voice acting? Thank you, Corey. Thank you. A generous offer, my friend, the king said. But too late. Lord Tywin has already given his consent. Fostering the boy elsewhere would be a grievous affront to him. I have no more concern for my nephew's welfare than I do for a Lannister pride, Ned declared. That's because you do not sleep with a Lannister, Robert laughed, the sound rattling among the tombs and bouncing from the vaulted ceiling. His smile was a flash of white teeth in the thicket of the huge black beard. Ah, Ned, he said, you're still too serious. He put on a massive arm around Ned's shoulders. Okay, hold on, we're gonna have to pause this one. Okay, we'll go with this thing a little bit, right? I want a different soundtrack for Winterfell. You're gonna get a different one for Winterfell. Let's get a little more Winterfell-y, you know? That's a bit too much Targaryen. If you know what I mean. If you know, you know. Where am I? His smile was a flash of white teeth in the thicket of the huge black beard. Ah, Ned, he said, you're still too serious. He put a massive arm around Ned's shoulders. I'd planned to wait a few days to speak to you, but I see now there's no need for it. Come, walk with me. They started back down between the pillars. Blind stone eyes seemed to follow them as they passed. The king kept his arm around Ned's shoulder. You must wonder why I finally came north to Winterfell after so long. Ned had his suspicions, but he did not give them voice. For the joy of my company, surely, he said. He said lightly. And there's the wall. You need to see it, your grace. To walk along its battlements, to talk to those who man it. The Night's Watch is a shadow of what it once was. Benjen says, no doubt I'll hear what your brother says soon enough, Robert said. The wall has stood for, 8,000 years? You can keep a few days more. I have more pressing concerns. These are difficult times. I need good men about me. Men like John Arryn. He served as Lord of the Eyrie, as Warden of the East, as Hand of the King. He'll not be easy to replace. His son, Ned began. His son will succeed to the Eyrie and all its incomes, Robert said brusquely. Well, no more. That took Ned by surprise. He stopped, startled, and turned to look at his king. The words came unbidden. The Arryns have always been Wardens of the East. The title goes without the title goes with the domain. Perhaps when he comes of age, the honor could be restored to him, Robert said. I have this year to think of and next. A 6-year-old boy is no war leader, Ned. In peace, the title is only an honor. Let the boy keep it for his father's sake, if not for his own. Surely he owed John that much for his service. The king was not pleased. He took his arm from around Ned's shoulders. John's service was the duty he owed his liege lord. I'm not ungrateful, Ned. You of all men ought to know that. But the son is not the father. A mere boy cannot hold the East. Then his tone softened. Enough of this. There's a more important office to discuss, and I will not argue with you. Robert grasped Ned by the elbow. I have need of you, Ned. I'm yours to command, your grace. Always. They were words he had to say, and so he said them, apprehensive about what might come next. Robert scarcely seemed to hear him. Those years we spent in the Eyrie. Gods, they were good years. I want you at my side again, Ned. I want you down in King's Landing, not up here at the end of the world when you're no damn use to nobody. Robert looked off into the darkness. For a moment as melancholy as a stark. I swear to you, sitting a throne is 1,000 times harder than winning one. Laws are a tedious business, and counting coppers is worse. And the people, there's no end to them. I sat on a damnable iron chair and listened to them complain until my mind is numb and my heart is raw. They all want something, money or land or justice. The lies they tell, and my lords and ladies are no better. I'm surrounded by flatterers and fools. You can drive a man to madness, Ned. Half of them don't dare tell me the truth, and the other half can't find it. There are nights I wish we had lost on the Trident. No, naturally, but I understand, Ned said softly. Robert looked at him. I think you do. If so, you're the only one, my old friend, he smiled. Lord Eddard Stark, I would name you the Hand of the King. Ned dropped to one knee. The offer did not surprise him. What other reason could Robert have had for coming so far? The Hand of the King was the second most powerful man in the 7 kingdoms. He spoke with the king's voice, commanded the king's armies, drafted the king's laws. At times he even sat upon the Iron Throne to dispense king's justice when the king was absent, or sick, or otherwise indisposed. Robert was offering him a responsibility as large as the realm itself. It was the last thing in the world he wanted. Your Grace, he said, I'm not worthy of the honor. Robert groaned with good-humored impatience. If I wanted to honor you, I'd let you retire. I'm planning to make you run the kingdom and fight the wars while I eat and drink and wench myself into an early grave. He slapped his gut and grinned. You know the saying about the king and his hand? Ned knew the saying. What the king dreams, he said, the hand builds. I betted a fish maid once who told me the lowborn have a choicier way to put it. The king eats, they say, and the hand takes the shit. He threw back his head and roared his laughter. The echoes rang through the darkness, and all around them the dead of Winterfell seemed to watch with cold and disapproving eyes. Finally, the laughter dwindled and stopped. Ned was still on one knee, his eyes upraised. Damn it, Ned, the king complained. You might at least humor me with a smile. They say it grows so cold up here in winter that a man's laughter freezes in his throat and chokes him to death, Ned said evenly. Perhaps that is why the Starks have so little humor. Come south with me, and I'll teach you how to laugh again, the king promised. You helped me win this damnable throne, now help me hold it. We're meant to rule together. If Lyanna had lived, we should have been brothers, bound by blood as well as affection. But it's not too late. I have a son, you have a daughter. My Joff and your Sansa shall join our houses as Lyanna and I might have once done. This offer did surprise him. Sansa's only 11. Robert waved an impatient hand. Old enough for betrothal. The marriage can wait a few years, the king smiled. Now stand up and say yes, Garcia. Nothing would give me greater pleasure, Your Grace, Ned answered. He hesitated. These honors are all so unexpected. May I have some time to consider? I need to tell my wife. Yes, of course. Tell Catelyn. Sleep on it if you must. The king reached down, clasped Ned by the hand, and pulled him roughly to his feet. Just don't keep me waiting too long. I'm not the most patient of men. For a moment, Eddard Stark was filled with a terrible sense of foreboding. This was his place, here in the north. He looked at the stone figures all around them, breathed deep in the chill silence of the crypt. He could feel the eyes of the dead. They were all listening, he knew. And winter was coming. There we go. And that's the end of the episode. That's the end of the episode. I didn't play for the beginning, so we have to play for the ending. I play for the ending. Oh my god. I hope y'all enjoyed this reading of Game of Thrones. Chapters 4 and 5, Daenerys and Eddard. Jeez. This flute is going mad off of it, my friends. They're going absolutely crazy. The music is definitely better than you remember, Corey. It's exactly better than you remember. I don't want it. I don't want the throne. Ned is very much like Jon in that sense, yes. That's a recorder, my friend. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing instrument. I just love how hard they try at the end. It's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay, so we are done tonight. No flute could sound this shit. Oh my god, finally using a recorder for good. Yeah, we learned it in school just for this. Just for this. Okay, so thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for watching and for listening to this episode of A Game of Thrones. It is a Game of Thrones, not just Game of Thrones, you know. Tomorrow we'll be doing chapters 6 and 7. We'll be going through this book. We're nearly an eighth of the way there. I'm telling you, this book is huge. This book is pretty big, to be honest. I shall set a raid to go over, and this time hopefully it works. To Yagi-san. Yes, this one is working for whatever reason. Last night didn't work, but whatever. So tomorrow 6 and 7, and then Friday will be 8 and 9. But I would not be doing it on the weekend mainly because I'm not gonna be home on the weekend, probably more than likely. So after Friday, um, we'll start back from Monday, so y'all have time, to catch up if you haven't caught up already on the weekend. You have episodes, you could binge it out. It's only an hour. This one is actually the longest because Daenerys chapter was actually pretty long. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, I shall see you all tomorrow at 8:47 sharp. 8:47 p.m. sharp. Alright? We will come up with different or actually 8:43. It'll be 8:43. Alright. See you all tomorrow. Enjoy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Focus